Welcome to another, and now that's Debatable with myself, Sidney Smith, and my co-host, my brother from another mother, Mr. Deon Curry. Thank you guys for being with us here on a Tuesday. We normally do the show on Monday, so if you are just jumping in here with us for the first time, you are catching us on an off day. So we're here on Tuesday. Got a great show lined up for you anyway. Excuse me here. Let me look and see people are starting to pop in. Again, if you are new to the show or if you are a master debater for a long time, give us some comments. Let us know that you were out there. Hit that emoji button as well. Let us know how you're feeling and what you're thinking. We want you guys to be a huge part of the show. I see Melee is out there with us. What's good, Melee? Mary is with us as always. Thank you guys. Mary is watching on YouTube, so I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Deon, my co-host, my partner in crime for a long time. What's good, bro, with your White Claw ass?
Happy Tuesday to you and to all our master debaters. Normally we do the show on Monday, like you said, but we had scheduling conflicts, so it is good to finally get to do the show. You know, I always look forward to coming on here with you and talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about. I appreciate all the comments, the shares, the likes, the emojis, the hearts, and even some of the sad faces that some of the master debaters put up for us. I'm in a mood, man. It was a crazy weekend. I'm happy to be here. So yeah, let's do it.
Before we jump into that, I want to give a shout out to the Tempe Improv. I was there last weekend, had some great shows. My man Pete Lee, touring headliner, funny dude. If you ever get a chance to see him. One of the nicest guys in the business. I know Deon.
Super nice.
Yeah, Deon will vouch for that as well. Funny upcoming cat getting ready to shoot his special this year. AJ Wilkerson got a chance to share their stage with him as well. We had a good time. Zach and Alex and the whole crew over there, man. Love those guys over at Tempe Improv. So wanted to give them some shouts and some love right there. Before we moved on with the rest of the show. Got a lot of other stuff coming up, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. I see Lotus is in with us, and I see Facebook user. Can't tell who the Facebook user is, but I do see Facebook user.
It's Chelsea.
All right, Chelsea.
I'm assuming if it's the emojis that you see.
What's good,
that's Chelsea?
Deon, just so you know, and I don't know if you can see it on your end, but when you lean in a little bit, that covers your mouth and your chin, your name and everything there.
Okay, got you.
All right, folks. So I can't wait to hear what Deon thinks about this, because Deon's been in a writing room now for, 3 seasons you've been in that writing room for the Miss Pat show. I myself do some writing on my own and do some projects on my own, but Deon is in the writer's room. So I'm very interested in hearing what he thinks about this. The WGA, Writers Guild of America, for folks who don't know, that is the union that if you're a professional writer of almost any sort, I believe, you almost should be a part of this union if you want to get work and be paid the union wages. Everyone who knows about unions know normally paid the wages inside the union are going to be better than wages outside the union for long-term work, and plus all the other benefits that come from that. So they've decided it's time for them to go on strike again. It's been 15 years since they went on strike, and they're looking for higher pay, a little bit more money on the back end of things. It gets a little bit jumbled, convoluted if you don't know all of the ins and outs. So we'll walk you guys through that as we have this discussion and we give our thoughts and comments about what's going on. Deon, I want to go ahead and go to you first on this. Where do you sit right now in terms of, and you're supposed to be going down to get back to work here real soon, I believe, to Africa. You're supposed to fly to Africa to go capture some wild boars.
No, it's fine. I'm kidding. Where I stand on it, obviously, as someone who's worked on a television show, going into my 3rd season now, I'll be leaving to go shoot season 4, which the cat is out of the bag, so I was just messing with you there. Season 4 of the Miss Pat show will start filming next week. And so the scripts have already been written for the most part, so the strike won't really affect that. But the pay structure in which creatives get through writing and television hasn't really changed with the times, the way we watch and consume shows nowadays. And that's mainly what this strike is about, is that 10 to 15 years ago, the way the contracts were structured, when a show would re-air on whatever network, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, whatever, every time it would re-air, you would get a residual check that
Right.
Was worth getting a check for. Whereas now people have moved to the streaming services, and part of what paid you residuals was the ad revenue that these ABC, Fox, and all the other conglomerates, they would sell ad space for the show that you wrote on, and so that's what will pay you in residuals, is the ads that these companies bought. Well, you move over to streaming like HBO Max and Netflix and Hulu and whatnot. Most of these places don't have ads embedded within their streaming service, and so whatever financial compensation that the company would get through selling these ads, they're not really making. They're making that money off of just subscriptions. You pay a one-time monthly fee, $5.99, $7.99, whatever it is. Netflix, the highest level I think is $20, and so with a lot fewer subscriptions than what the ad revenue would be, the writers' residual checks have gone from 15, 20,000 to some as low as $23 was one.
I saw that report today. Yeah.
Writer. So that obviously has a huge effect on your ability to make a living as a writer on a TV show or a movie or reality show or whatever. And so the writers went on strike, obviously, to try and negotiate a better deal for themselves when it comes to residuals and how streaming is affected. As somebody who sat in a writer's room, it is a committee. It's rare that one person writes everything that you see in a particular episode. Most writers' rooms have 5 to 6 people, some more, some less. Like Saturday Night Live has more than 5 or 6 writers, obviously, but most sitcoms is 5 to 8 people, and they all are given a particular episode, and then they all work on it together. One person has the main outline, the backbone, the A and B story, if you will, of whatever episode you're watching, and then they all come together. But usually it's the person who does the A and B story who is credited with writing the episode when you see the credits at the end. And so as someone who's not in the writers union, it doesn't affect me one way or the other. But once I saw some of the reports about how the money has dramatically changed, yet the profits for these companies has only increased, I completely back all the writers in the WGA to get more money.
I would disagree with you slightly, only on one point there towards the end where you said it doesn't affect you. I think anytime any group of people go on union, it affects other folks in the periphery of the agreement as well. With the writers going on strike, there's a lot of people who will not be able to work if there's no work happening beyond just the actors. So I do think
no. When I say it doesn't affect me, as I meant the writer's strike, that is not going to affect the pay that I get.
I got you.
Based on the show. So
that's what I meant. Well, one good thing that you guys have going for you, like a lot of shows do, is that you've already written what you guys are going to shoot. Abbott Elementary, which is a darling of a lot of folks out there right now, I guess watching and reading some things I was looking at today, they write as a season goes, as the season progresses. So there will be nothing for them to shoot for that particular TV show. Also, I was also watching an interview, and they were talking about how a lot of the network execs were trying to get writers to get shit done. Get it done, because obviously everyone knew that this strike was coming, but they didn't. Just again, for folks out there to kind of understand why we're talking about this, and if you don't care today, you probably will care tomorrow and later in the week. As Deon was saying, with this happening, you're going to see a lot of everything just completely stop in Hollywood. For instance, if you're interested, if you're into watching the late night shows, you won't be watching those after this week. I think they're going to be. I think they got enough to go to get through this week. You're talking about Saturday Night Live. If you're a fan of that or anything of that sort, they're not going to have a show this weekend as it stands right now. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of reruns. So I think this will begin to affect a lot of folks who do use television, whether it be to babysit your kids or just to kind of let your mind drift away when you are getting ready for work or whatever it is. I do wonder though, if it will have that big of an effect on us as a society today as it would have 15 years ago, Deon, because we are so involved with the streaming services and having all of our shows that we already enjoy up and out there, whether it be on HBO Max, whether it be on Netflix, whether it be on Hulu or whatnot. We may be able to sustain this longer than the writers would like to think.
See, and I can't speak to that because I'm gonna be honest with you, Sid. I rarely watch TV, and when I do, it isn't something that I haven't already seen before. I watch sports live
Yeah.
and sometimes the news, but when it comes to shows like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead or Snow, like I've never seen Snowfall. I stopped watching The Walking Dead. I think at like season 8. I watched all of Game of Thrones, but it was 5 or 6 years after the show had finished. So I'm not one of those people who needs television in order to occupy my free time. I do other things, but so I can't really speak to how it's going to affect people as far as making it out. But I do know that I personally prefer to binge watch something as opposed to the weekly release of something.
Mm-hmm. Most people do.
Right, because I remember back in the day that was the only option you had, and I remember looking forward to TGIF, or if they did a to be continued episode, you had to wait a whole week, and it was something that you would talk about. Whereas nowadays, because of streaming, you can get instant satisfaction. You know how many times Netflix has asked me, "Are you still watching?" I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I'm still watching. I'm binging. I'm catching up. Stop asking me these questions." But the beauty of that is there is no commercials that I have to sit through and waste my time, so to speak. But for Netflix, that's ad revenue that they're missing out on. Yes, they have a low level, but if you spend more money, to me, it doesn't balance out the ad service versus the non-ad service. More people will just pay the small extra bump to not have the commercials.
I would say, not I would say, what I was going to say to you was watching a couple of different things or reading a couple of things. The companies are not even engaging with the union. They have not sent any type of reply back to them in terms of numbers. So they're sitting back with their hands in their pockets saying, we got nothing for you. And at the moment, we plan on giving you nothing more than what you've already been getting. I don't know what took them so long to finally say, hey, man, we need to figure this out. Because this seems like they would have discovered this issue. And I say them, I mean the writers, the union, would have. And I just said before, this goes against my capitalistic nature, but I am behind the writers on this. But I don't know. I guess I don't know all of the ins and outs to know what took you so long, because it's been 15 years since the last time you struck. Since you had to strike. And now you're doing it now. I would almost say, again, your timing may be off. Maybe wait till next year when Game of Thrones was supposed to be back. I don't know. Again, I'm not part of it. But there really isn't anything, to your point, on television where people are like, I got to see it. I got to see it. I got to see it. We're a year and a half away from Game of Thrones coming back, the sequel. House of Dragons coming back, which is a major show. Succession, maybe, but we're halfway through that season, and this is the last season of that. I know that's a big one for people. Anything? I don't know where is the value to get the public behind you to say, hey, let's move this on.
The value is that there will be no new shows because everybody who writes new shows isn't going to be writing new shows, and so it comes a point in time where there will be a moment where people are like, well, I want to watch something new now. I'm tired of rewatching all of the things I've already seen. And so the pressure will then become, well, if there ain't going to be no new shows, am I going to keep renewing my subscription? Am I going to, because when you write a show and they put it on the streaming service, the writers behind that, to cut their profits, the residuals that they were making, they would take the show down because they didn't want to keep paying what the residuals were supposed to be in the original contract.
And HBO did that with Westworld.
Yeah. And
which is their own television program that they took down because of that.
Right. So what happens is the company is going to reach a point of stagnation where they're not going to have any new products to sell to people. And so they're going to have to eventually come to the table. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take.
The last strike took 100 days before it was resolved. So everybody buckle in.
Yeah. I'm not somebody, like I said, I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and HBO Max. I watch the same 7 or 8 movies over and over and over again. Last night I watched Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance again. Now, there are tons of shows I haven't seen yet that are critically acclaimed, like The Wire and Oz and Orange is the New, all these shows that people love that I haven't just sat down to watch because honestly, I take people's word at it. They said it was good, so I believe them. So I don't feel like I need to watch it. It's not like we're having these ongoing conversations.
How have you not seen The Wire, man?
Because I didn't have HBO at the time that it came out. And so it came out, people talked about it, I heard about it, how great it was, but I never had a desire to be like, you know what, let me sit down and watch this. Because I'm not that big into television, to be honest.
When you have me down here to Brother Sears' house, we're going to pull you out the bedroom a little more often than we had the last few times you've been here. And we're going to sit down and we're going to watch The Wire, man, because if I leave you to your own devices, you never come out of that room. I got to pull you out of that room to see sunlight and to see The Wire.
You know what? I'm a vampire, and I don't mind that vampires live alone. They don't like sunlight, and I'm okay with that. But to your point, like when I'm visiting you, I sit down and watch more TV when I'm with you than I am by myself. And you'll have Chappelle Show on or some movie, and I'm like, what's this? I'll just come out and watch it with you because if I am watching television, I do prefer to consume it with other people. That's just how I've always been. When I was a kid, we will watch TV as a family, whether it be in Living Color or Martin or Living Single, whatever was on at the time, Boy Meets World, whatever. So, that for me, watching TV by myself is not something that I like to do because of the nostalgia I have for watching TV. It was always a community thing, whether it would be with my friends or family. So,
well, just so you know, when I'm watching television, I don't like anybody around me. So you stay in the room where you're at.
I love how you switched it up immediately. We get you out the room to watch some more TV, but just so you know, I don't like other people watching my TV.
Hey, man, there's a lot of charity I do just because I'm supposed to be a good person. Doesn't mean I enjoy it. A lot of people go out with their church and sing Christmas carols in the middle of the snow at Christmas time. Don't mean they having a good time out here in the 10-degree weather.
That's why you moved to Arizona. No snow, no singing. Get your ass out my porch.
Try to get into heaven. Try to get into heaven. You're making some good points there. Yes, no new products coming. Yeah, that will get into Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, get into everybody's pockets. But how long can... I look at this like I look at the NFL when the players strike. I look at the streaming services like the teams. They can hold out a lot longer than the workers can. Their pockets, their coffers are a lot deeper. So y'all come with some realistic or some things that we think are realistic, and we'll be happy to break you off a little something. But
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Do you think the people, as in just us, the people, will side more with the companies or with the writers? Because when you talk about the NFL, the majority of people usually tend to side with the NFL than the players, in my opinion. So do you think this is the same scenario, or do you think more people will be like, you know what, I'd rather watch something new than to sit here and keep watching the same old episode of The Office and Friends or whatever?
You know what? I would like to think that it would be different because when you're talking about the NFL and you're talking about players, you're talking about millionaires against billionaires. When you're talking about this, yes, there's some writers out there who make a lot of money because they have that type of reputation, that type of team, and so on and so forth, and they have those type of contracts. But not all of them. There are some writers out there who are not making that kind of bread. As I think it was. Make sure I wrote it down right. One writer described it as the streaming services are trying to turn what should be your career into a gig economy, basically. And with all that said, hell no, do I think that the everyday man will ever stand up with the everyday man. The everyday man will always stand against another everyday man if you are in the way of getting to my crack cocaine. And if my crack cocaine is my HBO Max or my Netflix or my Hulu or whatever it is, if you're in the way, you're the problem. So hell no, they will side with the streaming services at all times.
See, and that's where I disagree with you because I feel like, as somebody who owns several subscriptions, that if you're not updating the movies and the TV shows that I want to watch, I'm not going to keep paying to watch the same thing over and over and over again. Like the movies that I do watch over and over and over again is because I don't have access to them in any other way. I don't have Die Hard with a Vengeance or Die Hard on DVD. So would I rather go out and spend the $8, or do I want to keep paying $20 a month to watch the same thing over and over and over and over again? I'm not going to do that. I'd just go buy the DVD.
Yeah, but we're talking about a long time from that if they were to get that upset. I'm talking about initially, I need you guys to get your asses back to work because you're screwing up what I got going. I pay good money for this. As much as everybody says Hulu better not raise that another dollar, Netflix better not raise another dollar, Netflix better not bring commercials involved with my... Everyone complains about all of it, but this again, I look at television, I look at streaming services almost the same way I look at Obamacare, I look at Social Security. Once you give Americans something, you can't take it away. And whoever they perceive to be the one taking it away, and I'm gonna say that they're gonna perceive it to be the writers because you're the motherfuckers that went on strike. You're the problem. So that's what I'm saying. They're gonna side with the streaming services.
But I think that idea, that mentality, will kill the business because honestly, if people knew the shows that did get picked up and some of the writing quality on some of those shows, because I've read scripts of shows that didn't get picked up. Trust me, you want professional writers writing the shows that you watch on a daily or weekly basis because amateurs writing good television is rare. There's a reason why these writers make the kind of money that they make. A quality writer is now. I'm not saying that the concepts are not new. Like everybody wants new ideas, but the people who know how to write good television, that's few and far between.
I don't disagree with you with that, but we've been watching bad writing for a while now because when you look at the amount of streaming services we had and the amount of shows on every single one, you can't say that every one of those shows are written very well. When you look at the amount of young adult shows that have been taken from books and turned into TV shows or just created out of thin air, that is not, trust me, as someone who gets caught in the middle of some of it because I have to walk through the room, this is not good writing. These are not good premises. These are not well thought out anything. But people are addicted to it nonetheless, and people want it. I mean, there is a lot of it out there, and I get.
But that's what.
Not all
but
of it's
that's
written
what
by good writers.
I think I disagree with you because we can compare it to some of the stand-up specials. You know, they give anybody and everybody a Netflix special, but that doesn't mean people go and watch it. The market is saturated with crap, and so due to the oversaturation of bullshit, people will find something to watch. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good product. And what I'm saying is that the more and more people consume mediocre quality content, the harder it is for those people who are making good content to do the things that they do. And so when you oversaturate the market with mediocre comedy specials, it decreases when you when you really do get a good special. When somebody comes out with something like, oh, this special is really, really good. it gets lost in the shuffle of all these other specials because you don't know when it comes out. You have to go through all these other specials to find it. It's that type of situation.
But I would disagree with you there because I think comedy is its own animal in itself. And when you're talking about specials, I don't think people pay as much attention to comedy in general unless they know the name whomever the headliner is. So yeah, there's a ton of specials, but I don't think everyone who has a Netflix account is waiting to go sift through all the comedy specials that are on there. So I think it's a different animal.
No. But that's what I'm saying is because there's so many on there that when somebody does sit down to watch it and it isn't any good, that hurts the person who is putting out a good special because like, well, if I just watch this Joe Schmo from Kokomo get his own Netflix special, and then you and I announce that we've got our specials on there, what are the chances that the average everyday person who's not a comedy fan is going to sit down and be like, let me give this next special a chance? I think that's what I'm saying. It hurts the people who do quality work when you put out a bunch of crap and then people see it and they're like, oh, I don't want to sit through another crap thing again.
Well, and what I'm saying is, I agree with that if that's the way you're saying it. But what I would say is, when you're looking at the amount of streaming services and the amount of people who want these streaming services, not only do the streaming services want it, but the people who are customers want it as well. So you are constantly looking for whatever is out there that can target whatever your core audience is to bring those people in. Much like if you look at back in network television with the WB and UPN when they first created themselves and what they brought in. Those were not the greatest of great shows, but for some reason they found an audience, and brought them in, and then they were able to broaden their writings there to even more crap and mix that in with some good shows or whatever. So to your point though, I do think people will always stand with the. It's easier to poke the guy who you think is just like you. And what are you complaining about? Because I go work for my $20 an hour every fucking day without complaining. Why are you complaining? And I just think that's the way people on this planet, people in this country are made up.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest trick that corporations have been able to pull over the American people is that they're on the side of righteousness when in reality they're the ones screwing you over at the end of the day, not your next door neighbor or the guy just trying to work and get a decent living wage.
Facebook user here says local number 1853 right you.
That's Leah, who was originally from Michigan.
Okay, so my family's a UAW family as well. Facebook user workers' rights or human rights. I completely agree.
Leah as well.
Okay, Leah, I agree with you, Leah. Robert's with us again. Sup, guys? What's good, Robert? Thanks for jumping in. He says Netflix 21. Is he saying Netflix $21 or I don't know what he's saying there. Just Netflix.
Can you elaborate on that, Robert? Because I don't.
And Facebook users here, I'm not sure if that's Leah again, says, I like that comedy seems to be getting recognized on a different level. If I tune into a bad special, I shut it off and move to the next one.
That's Roxy.
Hey, Roxy, I do like the fact that you guys are able to do that because there have been some bad ones for sure. But again, it has been, and Netflix has been the main culprit on this one. Give us more of that content because our audience wants it. They want it. We'll pay for it. Give it. And it seems to have worked out for them up to this point. I mean, even though they got to get commercials, it seems like now.
But see, so I ask you this: do you think that is a long-term model for success, or do you think that is a very short-term model for success? And so they're trying to strike while the iron's hot, but it's not something that's sustainable. Because for me, I know good and hell well that everybody who has a special doesn't necessarily have a special, right? Specials are supposed to be just that. That's why they call it a special. And yet, just because you have 35, 45 minutes worth of material doesn't make it special worthy. You know, gone are the days where you could do a 15, 20-minute Comedy Central presents or HBO presents.
I think that'll be back.
You know, with the advent of TikTok and how so many comics have used TikTok to get headlining spots without headlining time. You know, in comedy, you know, you get one opportunity to prove that you can bring the goods. And if you don't, you lose all those people. You know, I mean, I hate to bring her up, but Tiffany Haddish is a perfect example where, you know, she had that headlining tour that she was doing. She went down to Miami for New Year's Eve. She got drunk before the show, and then it went off the rails. I mean, that derailed her entire tour.
Here's something. I was in a conversation with some folks recently talking about, since we're talking about Netflix specials, and so yes, I think Netflix has figured out that we're not getting all we want to get out of this. I also think Netflix is having to change some other things. The fact that obviously we all know about it, people sharing accounts, and they're trying to buckle down on that, so you can't share your brother's account from this state to that state. They're trying to bring commercials into it, so now you're gonna have to pay if you want commercial free. I think real soon as well, things like that. So they're starting to change the way they are paying for specials, if you will. They're not buying them anymore. They're only going to lease them for a certain amount of time. So they are starting to change their business model, at least within the comedy scope of their company, because they don't see it as an advantage for them anymore up to this point. I'm sure they feel like we got all the specials we need, and we definitely don't need to buy them because, like you were saying, these specials are not special. Why are we giving these comics all of this money for something that's not that grandiose in the first place in terms of content and ability in a lot of cases? So I tell you what, we're gonna do a deal. We're gonna lease it from you for 2 years, and then we'll kind of go from there.
And see, that kind of happens with the TV shows. A lot of hit Netflix shows had one season and then they canceled them. And it's like, well, why did you cancel them when people were really enjoying this content? Well, it boils down to the writers' residuals they don't want to pay. And that's kind of where this strike comes full circle, is like, if I'm giving you a hit show that is making you more money than you had predicted, and you don't want to pay me on the back end like you're supposed to, well, then how long do you think I'm going to keep producing this high level content for low level money?
Hey, Danae, I just saw your comment. Netflix has really cut back in the last year or so, though. I assume you're talking about comedy specials. So let me know if that's what you're talking about, or if you're talking about their content as a whole, Danae. And thank you for watching. Thank you, Roxy. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Leah. Appreciate you, Larry, Lotus. Thank you guys for checking in with us and watching. We love the comments. Keep them coming in, so it's just not Deon and I talking to ourselves. But I could have did that shit on the phone. So
you would not have gotten high quality content like you're getting right now. I promise you that.
This is a good conversation so far. I'm enjoying it. I think Deon's enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. Let us know if you are. We may not make it to Block B if we're all enjoying it. So you got to let us know. Also, let me do this right now because we're doing this show a day late. I think I was a little thrown off. Shout out to all of our folks out there who are our Patreon folks. Thank you guys. You guys keep everything going. We do appreciate it. I will be scrolling here at the bottom for those of you viewing us on YouTube or Facebook Live right now or later, how you can jump on and become a patron of our Patreon. So thank you guys very much. And shout out to all of our folks who are listening via Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, so on and so on and so on. Thank you guys for listening and sharing the podcast each and every week. We do appreciate it. Don't forget to leave us a comment every once in a while on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts. We would love it. We would appreciate it. Let's see here. Hey, y'all. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back up. Hey, Jen. What's going on, Jen? Glad to see you. Jen is a long time friend. Known her for, fucking forever. Hope you're doing well, you and the fam. Hope you enjoy the conversation, so stick around. Facebook user says, hey, y'all, so what does the writer's strike mean? I missed the beginning.
That's Tamiko. Shout out to Tamiko. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, do you want to give a quick breakdown for it?
So basically what the writer's strike means, Tamiko, is there's not going to be any new television shows until the Writers Guild and the networks come to an agreement on basically what they're striking over is residual payments for shows that have already been released. So whenever you guys go back and rewatch a show, the writers on that show, just like the actors, every time a show airs, they get residual checks. The writers' residual checks from streaming doesn't match what it's making on regular network programming. And so the writers want a little bit more of the cut that the companies are making from these streaming services. And that's where the disconnect is. And that's why the writers are on strike. So until that is resolved, you won't get new late night shows. You won't get new Saturday Night Live. And all those new shows that they had announced late last year and early into this year, most of them, depending on how they're written, some shows are written week to week. Other shows are all 10 or 12 episodes are written and then they just shoot them. If they haven't finished writing the season, you won't get those new episodes.
Yeah. So you're looking at a lot of, even when they come back, you could be looking at a lot of schedules being out of whack for some of your favorite shows. Facebook user says, loving the conversation. I'll chime in one of these days.
That is Joanne from Canada. Thank you, Joanne.
Oh, Joanne, thank you very much. I do appreciate you letting us know you're enjoying. Mary Bella says, not at all related, but being the only person watching on YouTube, I feel like I have my own personal show. Well, Mary, that's why we started streaming on YouTube. So you could be all by yourself. So thank you for being that person who is watching. We do appreciate it. For folks out there, if you ever are having an issue where you don't feel like you can get the show on Facebook Live, for whatever reason, you can catch us on YouTube also. Danae says, scripted and all others. It seemed like they were coming out with a ridiculous amount for a while. Then they scaled back as more streaming services were coming online and people started rotating their services. Danae, a big thing that hit Netflix. This is going back to what Danae was saying before about Netflix, seemed like they were cutting back. Netflix wasn't really cutting back. It was more that companies were starting their own streaming services and pulling their content from Netflix. And I think that has really affected Netflix a lot. And I think the biggest... the biggest what's the word I'm looking for here, Deon?
Detriment?
No, not the biggest detriment. The company that's given Netflix the biggest issue when it comes to that was Disney, Marvel and Disney, because they pulled a ton of their things from there and have thrown up on that Disney app, that Disney Plus app, which is a good app. I have that app too if you want to find your Marvel stuff. And then there's other things too, Danae, where YouTube, Netflix decided they were not going to pay for some of these other things to keep coming and keep going. But then you had,
what happened? What happened is they tried to change their business model when it came to the network or the password sharing. And so a lot of people were like, well, I'm not going to renew my subscription if I can't. So it was a combination of too many shows. They were greenlighting literally everything. Like if you had an idea, Netflix was greenlighting it and shelling out tons of cash because
definitely that.
Before all of the streaming services started to pop up, Netflix was literally king of the streaming market. They had a lock on everything before HBO Max and Hulu really started to grow.
Peacock,
Disney, all that other stuff.
Netflix had everything.
They literally had everything. But once that, most people don't know this, but television networks have contract deals so that they have to renew at a certain point every 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it may be. So you have the just like in the NBA, the collective bargaining agreement. And so each local station has to renegotiate their deal. So like if you have cable and your cable provider all of a sudden stops carrying a channel, is because the contract ran out with that corporation. So they have to renegotiate the deal.
Was that ESPN when ESPN was supposed to leave one of the cable networks years ago?
ESPN had it with DirecTV. Fox had it with DirecTV. So what happens is these companies, their contracts run out. And so after a set amount of time, you have to go back to the drawing board and negotiate. That's why you always hear people say, if you want to keep this on your local cable provider, call the company and say, hey, I want my ESPN, blah, 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 whatever. And so I think that in a combination with greenlighting everything, and then they're trying to get more money through subscription services, kind of backfired on Netflix. And then you had the advent of all these other streaming services that once that main I can just start my own. They kind of copied Netflix's business model. We're just going to create our own content, like Apple TV. They went and got Jon Stewart. And, he's kind of taken off on that. So you got Peacock, you got all these different things. People are like, I'm fed up with cable. But at the same time, you're spending roughly the same amount of money that you would where it was all in one area. But now you've got all these different subscription services.
Look, bro, there's a lot of times every few months I go and say, all right, what are we spending on all the apps? Because, man, this cutting the cord was supposed to be cheaper than having the fucking cord. And because you do have so many new streaming services and everybody is someplace else, it's almost like you can't cut anyone out or anything out because they have just that one or two shows. that you like to watch, which is very much like cable. Like, I love to get rid of this cable, but there's one or two shows I watch, and somehow I think these networks are in cahoots, because this show starts and ends here, and then this one it ends here, then the next one I like starts and ends here. Like, they all know, like the networks all know how to keep it, just like the damn restaurants today. You can't go anywhere as a couple, even just for fast food, and eat for less than $25 if you're gonna have a meal. Somehow McDonald's, all of them are all in it together. It is a fucking fast food conspiracy, I tell you.
I mean, look at the gas stations. Why is one gas station $3.45 and the one on the corner is $3.46? Like, they're all in cahoots when it comes to whatever it is that they're marketing. So whether it's gasoline or television, these companies talk to each other. Everybody thinks they're in competition, but in reality, they're in collusion. If we were being honest, Coke and Pepsi are the same. They're not competing against each other. They're trying to get people to drink soda or pop or whatever it is you call it in the area of the country or world that you're in. So the idea is to trick you into thinking that, oh, I like this company over this company. But in reality, it's the product itself that they're trying to get you to consume. So it doesn't matter. And I always tell, we had two competing comedy clubs here in Indy at a point in time where if you played one club, they wouldn't play the other, which to me was stupid, because you're not competing against the other comedy club per se. You're competing against bowling. You're competing against the nightclub. You're competing against the other form of entertainment that people can consume. So if the other club has stage for the up-and-coming comic who lives in that area, who can get his friends and family to come visit you, you will want him to get better as quickly as possible, instead of limiting him to 3 minutes a week at a stage where, he doesn't have an opportunity to grow, to get more people to come into your establishment. So the idea that these companies are competing against each other is not really necessarily true. It's the medium itself is competing against other things. Like, would I rather you sit at home and watch Netflix for 3 hours, or would you rather go to a baseball game or the symphony or whatever it is that you choose to do, or art museum, whatever? So that's the idea. And when all these streaming services came out and everybody's like, oh man, I kind of wish I still had cable or it was all in one place. Well, you asked for that, and you gave the companies the ability to kind of bend you over the knee. It was a double-edged sword, if you will.
Robert says, but what about the quality of the new stuff? Then he says Netflix wanted to show only its own content at one point. And Netflix did feel like that they were trying to do that. And it's probably to Deon's point, where if you brought them an idea and they could put it out under their umbrella, they were trying to put it out. But it was a ton of shit. But they probably got to a point, well, not probably, I know it because they were talking about it. They got to a point like every new company does. I know Netflix has been around for quite some time, so they're not technically new, but they cross that threshold, as all young companies do, where we're just looking for market share, profits be damned, and everyone kind of has that understanding. Well, you get to a certain point where, okay, market share is great, but now these investors want fucking returns on their money, and so Netflix was having to figure out a way to show some type of profit for these folks. And one of them was to curb back how much content they were putting out. And the other one is, I'm assuming they think it's going to be a moneymaker for them, is allowing commercials for their programming here real soon and charging people the same way Hulu does. If you don't want the commercials, then pay for that service. You'll pay a little more.
But here's what it is. Netflix originally started out with no original content. It was a service that you could get other people's content from them, right? And it was exclusive. Yep. And so once you got all these other services, Netflix not only had to pay for a show like Friends, they had to pay NBC. So instead of paying NBC exorbitant amounts of dollars, they were like, you know what, we'll just create our own show and we'll let Friends go. But what happens is people who have been accustomed to seeing Friends on Netflix, and I'm just using Friends as an example because everybody knows the show, they were like, you know, we'll create our own show and we'll let Netflix go. But everybody who was on Netflix specifically to watch Friends is like, well, I don't give a shit about your content. I want to watch the shows that I've been watching. So I'm going to go, and you combine that with the fact that they were like, oh, we're going to increase subscription costs. We're going to increase or decrease the amount of people you can share your password with. It kind of turned into a snowball effect where people are like, well, I don't like this all of a sudden. This isn't what I'm used to. And we all know America hates change. So it's one of those.
You can't take away. You can't take
Yeah,
it away.
yeah. It's like once, you know, Chris Rock had a great bit. He goes, men can't go back sexually and women can't go back in lifestyle. And that's kind of what happens is, you know, as Americans, we do not want to go back to what we had, you know, that we thought was great. And so you kind of see it in the overall arc of the country. You're not trying to go political, but you can see that analogy play itself out.
What's the bit Chris Rock says? You go in there, woman go into the divorce court. Your Honor, I've become accustomed to a certain way of living.
and what the fuck is accustomed to?
I'm accustomed to get fucking her twice a week. She can have alimony. I want some pussy payments.
Pussy payments.
So, but you're right. This country has a huge issue with that. Great comment there, Robert. Great comment. Appreciate you. Mary says YouTube is far less choppier. That's good to know, Mary, for anyone out there who's having any issues with the Facebook Live. She says, Deon, I apologize. I have not watched the Miss Pat show. I have to check it out. So her question to you, Deon, what is your title? What is it that you do on the show?
Who asked that?
Mary Ballard did.
Mary, I am a writer's assistant. So my job on the show is to create jokes. My whole purpose on that show is for every time a punchline comes up, my job is to make that punchline as funny as possible. There's a group of us along with the original writers of each episode who contribute to trying to make the show as funny as possible. Like I said earlier, the writer comes with the backbone of the script, and then not only do the actors and the writers, but the writers' assistants, we all try to find ways to, is there a funnier way to say this? Is there a funnier way to do this? That's my job on the show, is to try to make it as funny as possible.
So he pretty much punch up is what you may hear that term thrown around, punch up.
And you want to know what's really funny is a lot of the times when we're shooting the episode in front of a live studio audience, it won't be until that final shoot day where we come up with, oh shit, this is funny. You should say it like this, because we've been doing rehearsals.
Yeah.
And it isn't until the live audience gets there that you're like, oh, I think this would be really funny in the moment. And some of those changes literally happen on the spot, just like that. So, being part of season 1 and season 3, there are multiple episodes where some of those jokes made it into the show because we found them that day, which is kind of cool.
And as someone who writes and directs, I too can speak to this, that sometimes when you're on set, you already have the words on the page. But once the lights come on the camera and that clapper claps, baby, that's where the real magic can happen. So I can speak to Deon. Sometimes it's already on the page.
Why are you talking like Martin Scorsese Spielberg over here?
That's why I slip into my writer-director role, man. Don't be messing this up. So as I was saying, that's where the real magic comes, baby, is once the light, the camera, and that clapper happen. All right. Well, good point, Deon. Now, see, I'm back out of it. I'm back out of my Martin Scorsese, Spielberg, George Lucas mode. Robert, you're right. Peacock has live TV with certain stations, plus ESPN, soccer, WWE. You're right. A couple of those stations are now bringing live TV into kind of doing what Hulu does.
Yeah, Hulu does that too.
They're doing the same thing. So I have some decisions to make. Hey, Jessica, appreciate you watching. Jessica's back with us. I think it's been a minute, Jessica. Thank you for jumping in. Michelle Nagata's with us. What's good, Michelle? Michelle, where's that husband of yours? I feel like you were nicer to us when he was on. So tell him we need him to come back. All right, let's see. I'm going to get some more comments here. Danae says Fox uses their renegotiation power to have a ridiculous money, so much so they make a huge majority of their money through those contracts and don't have to rely on advertising as much as other networks, which helped them be as nuts as they were because they don't have to worry about companies pulling their advertising as much. And that, too, in turn, Danae, what has allowed them to do and what we kind of talked about already is to cut the writers out of those back-end deals. Where it's not just the writers either. I'm sure the actors who would probably have an issue with this as well. There's a lot of creatives outside of writers who look to make money on the back end as well. And if the networks or the streaming services are able to keep all the money because they're keeping it all on the back end, because there is no back end, essentially they're cutting it out. That's going to affect a lot of more people. I would almost say there's probably some other unions sitting back waiting to see what's going to happen with the writer's strike to see where things go when we talk about that back end money, Deon.
There's a lot of people involved in television that you don't really know or hear about, whether it is the boom mic operators, the camera operators, the stage production people, the people who design the sets and create the sets. There's a whole secret industry, if you will. And they're not so secret, but it's just people you don't think about that goes into making a television show, whether it is the stunt coordinator, if there's action on a TV show, whether it's a dialogue coach for if you have someone who's not a native speaker to a certain language. You've got all these people who will be affected by not having work because of the fact that the writers aren't writing new content for all these people to work on. So not only is this writer strike going to affect the writers, but it'll affect the camera crews and the actors. At some point, they'll be like, "Yo, I want to get back to work." So
yeah. But I mean, as far as that back end money, because there are other groups who make back end money as well in some of their deals. When you're talking about traditional network television deals, not just writers. So I'm wondering if there's some other unions that may step up.
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
You've got the executive producer. You've got all the actors. Every actor gets a residual. Well, all the main actors, I should say.
Right.
So yeah, that at some point, the strike will reach a point of, hey, we really need to get this deal done for the betterment of all of us, not just the corporation, but the writers, the actors, all the behind the scenes people. So I don't anticipate this writer strike lasting very long. Hopefully, as someone who writes on a TV show, it's not, strikes aren't good, like for anybody. If we're being honest, you don't want strikes in any type of workplace scenario because it halts production, and the longer that goes on, the worse we all are off because of it.
We'll get back to some more comments here before I do. Hey, folks who are watching us here on Facebook Live and on YouTube, you see our handles down there. Those are our handles. You can reach out to us. We would love for you to give us a follow on IG. I think we both are pretty good with, if you are doing anything worthwhile looking at, we will follow you back. So give us a follow. We'll definitely check out your content and maybe give you a follow back as well. And then, like I like to do, be very aware of this. I go back a few months and I like to make sure you're still following me. I'm not just following you because now I feel you. So let's go.
I am not that petty. I don't.
Whoa, sir. It's the world we live in, baby. I didn't create it. I just lived in it. I got comics out here with less talent and getting some better opportunities than I'm getting just because they got more followers. So the world we live in, Deon.
That matters. That matters to you. That doesn't matter to me. My followers go up and down all the time.
On these attitudes out of you, buddy. All right, Facebook user says, "Thank you, friend. Man, I spend so much on streaming and I still have cable." Shake my head. I do not have cable.
I don't know how you afford both.
But I thought about it. I thought about it.
I know cables. Some people's cables intertwine with their internet, so that I kind of makes where some places you can't get them without one without the other.
I told you my wife came home with a phone number for a residential phone number we don't use because she got a better deal on the internet.
You got a landline that you don't use?
Don't use. I don't know the number. There's never been a phone in this house. I'm like, what?
You don't even have the landline. You just got the landline number.
She's like, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, it was a better price. Facebook user says, I think I'm going to pull the trigger and cut some apps too. I'm paying to have the option to watch. In reality, I don't really have time to watch even 10% of what I pay for. I'm right there with you.
That's Roxy.
Roxy, I'm right there with you. And Roxy, you're going to make it to the wall with that one because I agree. But it'll be the one time I want to watch some Roxy, and I'll be pissed that I don't have it. So that's the thing that always kind of keeps me. That's why I was saying they're all in fucking cahoots, Roxy. They're all in cahoots.
So let me ask you this, Sid. Do you think it would be a viable option for streaming services to give you a tier where they can't pull any of the content, like a legacy, where anything and everything that they have, you should always have access to? Because I don't like personally how Netflix does this all the time with documentaries and stuff. Well, it goes, oh, this is leaving in 30 days or whatever. So you've got X amount of time to watch it, and then it's gone for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, and then it comes back eventually. To me, that's a giant pain in the ass. I feel like if I pay for Netflix for 1 month, I should have access to everything Netflix has ever had, because that's really the only reason I want to have Netflix, is because I feel like, I want to be able to watch whatever is on there. I don't want you switching it up on me without my consent to it. It would be one thing if they asked me, hey, do you want to keep this? So where I could be like, you know what, keep this show and get rid of that show because I'm never going to watch that show for me, as whereas somebody else might not care about the show I want to watch, but then they do like the show that I don't watch. And so to me, that personal option would be better than just pulling everything and then whatever.
Yeah, but then how does YouTube keep things if the contract is up, or if it's moving being taken from them and pushed someplace else, or maybe no one other than you is watching it? I mean,
it doesn't. It's most of the things on there they're not paying extra for because it's their content. So whether it's
no, not all of it. They take shit away. There's movies. They take all kind of stuff that leaves that's is not their content.
Yeah, but if they bring it back, it isn't because the contract expired. It's because they have the right to do whatever it is. Like
I think it comes back because whatever deal they didn't get done probably got done, and they were able to bring it back. I think.
No, I watch Imitation Game on Netflix every time it's on there. They take it away for a few months and then it comes back. They are not renegotiating with that movie every time they put it back on there. So the idea is if I put it in my watch list, it should stay in my watch list.
How about this? How about you watch more than 6 things on Netflix and we don't have to worry about it?
Well, you don't get to tell me what I can and can't watch.
Keep us all captive because you watch 6 things.
No, I'm not saying keep it captive. I'm saying I think they should have an option on a tier level that you pay for, that, as long as it's part of their negotiated contracts with these people, you should be able to watch it whenever you want to instead of whenever they decide. I think there needs to be more transparency when it comes to them pulling things, if anything. Right. I'm willing to negotiate like, hey, I want a more of a heads up as to why you're taking away a show instead of just say 25 days from now, you ain't gonna be able to watch this for another 6 months. And then I'm gonna bring it back. Like,
what do you guys say? What do you guys think? Tamiko says, hey, whoa, friend, I love you like cooked food, but Coke and Pepsi are not the same. LOL, Team Pepsi. And then Michelle Nagata says, Tamiko I always chose Coke in the Pepsi challenge. Michelle, every few months, you and I agree on something. Because I grew up as a Pepsi kid because I think I just hadn't come accustomed to that harshness of the Coke, the cocaine that's in the Coke. And then one day, I said, man, Coke is my shit, son. And I can't really drink Pepsi now. You offer me some Pepsi, I might slap you.
See, they taste exactly the same.
They do not.
You know what I miss from Pepsi is Pepsi Blue. I remember when Pepsi Blue came out. Oh, that was my shit. I know it was killing my gallbladder, my liver, and my kidneys. I know it was ruining me because that stuff was pure poison. But man, I loved it.
And you're the only person drinking Pepsi Blue, and I guess you think they should have kept it.
For me, yes, absolutely.
And so I bet you this Tamiko was ew. Now, I don't know who says the show is great. I don't know who said that.
That was Roxy.
Okay, Roxy. Okay, thank you, Roxy. All right. Is this Deon? Do you know this individual? Is it pronounced Shale or Chale? G. You know,
I don't see that comment. I'm watching within the group.
Oh, okay. Well, they say, oh wow, YouTube stream is a million times better. I want to thank you for watching us on YouTube or on Facebook Live. So I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, there you go for folks out there who may be having an issue with the Facebook Live for whatever reason. YouTube is better. So Now we know it's Facebook who seems to have the problem. Danae says that was a parenting tip I read when my kids were little. Parent in the funnel. Keep them under wraps when they are little and then let the reins out as they prove that they are able to handle it. If you give them a phone and permission to use it whenever you can, never scale that back without a huge fight. Absolutely. So it definitely has to be given to the American people little bit by little bit by little bit. You just can't give them everything at once because, it ain't coming back. You can forget about it. Ask the Republicans. They've been trying to get rid of Obamacare for how many years now? It ain't going anywhere. People who complain about it have it.
I love that. Oh, we got a new plan. It'll be out in 2 weeks. 4 years later, we ain't heard a peep about the new plan. We just know we get rid of Obamacare.
Nothing. You cannot shell game the American public with certain things. One of them is their health care. One of them is their Social Security. And the other one is their Netflix. They're not about to let you shell game. I need to see proof in the pudding on what you are offering me before I let you take this away. This thing I'm holding with a death grip. Facebook user says, that's a cool ass job, Deon. I knew you were a writer on the show, but I didn't know the details. And then Mary says, Sidney, what the? Hey, Mary, I'm sure you're commenting on my director voice. If you ever want to know what I sound like on the set, that's what I sound like. So someone says, I hope we never hear that alter ego again. That's not making the board.
That was Roxy, and I agree with you, Roxy. It was very creepy.
That is the first time.
If I wasn't on this show,
what did you say?
If I wasn't on this show, I would have took my headphones out and be like, I don't want to hear this.
Hey man, don't be telling people that. People are watching this show. Chael or Shale, I'm not even sure which way to pronounce it, so forgive me if I'm chopping this up. Says the husband is busy on the Xbox pretending to be a Jedi. By the way, it's Michelle. Okay. By the way, it's Michelle Nagata here. Oh, okay. So it's Michelle Nagata. All right, Michelle. That's who that is.
That's weird. Her comments are popping up as Michelle in the group. She must be watching on two different. I don't know how that.
She says she's watching on YouTube.
Okay.
Someone says we still have a landline too. Last kid got a sale, so I need to cut it off. It's funny that made me think about we were the last kids when we were kids to get a Nintendo. Like my mother, I don't know what she was waiting for all the time. We were always the last kids to get certain things. Like all of our friends were playing. What's the damn duck game on Nintendo back in the day?
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt, thank you. And Mario Brothers.
Duck Hunt. Yeah.
We were the last group of kids to get a Nintendo when we were kids. We were always the last to get certain things.
Now I see why you're so bitter all the time. You wasn't up on this new shit like me over here. Because every time a new system came out, we had it Christmas Day, baby. Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo.
And certain things my mother, I think she just didn't believe in. Like you had to talk her into stuff. like I was a baller. You had to talk her into, look, man, I need these shoes. Why do you need shoes? Y'all the shoes you got upstairs, you can't play in those shoes? These are team shoes, Mom. Varsity jackets, yearbooks, all kinds of you had to talk her into it. And I think part of it was, I think people parent from their own memories a lot of time. So if this wasn't something that they grew up and that was important to them, or they didn't experience or didn't see the importance in it, sometimes you have to explain certain things or beg or whatever you have to do as a kid to get these things because they don't see the value in it. There's almost that whole, well, I didn't need that shit when I was going to school. What the hell you need it for? That type of thing.
Well, I don't have any kids, but my brother has, both of my two older brothers have children. And my oldest brother just bought his niece a brand new car. She's 16. And, when we were kids, he had to buy his own car while working at the freaking movie theater. And so he is not parenting like we were parented. That's for damn sure. Because if that was the case, that car would not be sitting out there in the driveway.
Good for him.
Yeah. She got a brand new car. It's very, very nice. And I just, I'm like, damn, I wish this nigga was my daddy, because my daddy didn't buy me. I didn't buy my first car until I was 20 years old. And it was an 89 Chevy Blazer that was primer orange. Her car is fucking brand new, very nice. So yeah, we sometimes we parent way better than our parents parented us.
Your brother would be our generation. So I think our generation has learned from our parents' generation who learned from their generation. In fact, I look back on some of the stuff my mama did, and I think about my relationship with my mother and think about why it was so topsy-turvy, not just because I was a kid and a teenager. All parents and children go through that, but some of us, oh shit, when you get to hear things about how they were raised or what was life was for like for her and her siblings, like, oh, that's why you're like that. And then you kind of have a better understanding. But when you're a kid or a teenager, I don't give a fuck how you were raised. Why I don't know why you talking to me like this, or why you giving me this hard time, or just give me the damn car keys and the money for gas. What's all the? I don't need the speech. And my mother was weird with it. I'm sorry to get off of this. You guys know how the show works. We go all over the place. Well, I'll come back to this. We had like several cars in the driveway. Like we had a big U drive, so we had a lot of room for vehicles. And my mother, for some reason, for a while, forced me to drive this wood panel station wagon, bro. like almost torturing me because I got a driver's license. I felt like you can let me drive anything else that's better than this that's parked outside, but I got to drive this wood panel station wagon, bro.
You had to pay your dues, man. You had to pay your dues.
I think I told the story before. I don't want to tell it again, but when I crashed that son of a bitch, and I got grounded. so, all right. Danae says, we have a landline for the kids to use in emergencies and faxing for my husband's business. So it's tied to the basic cable. The only time we use the cable is football season. All right. I'm just scrolling through here. Mayor says, Deon, Coke and Pepsi are not the same. I switched to Coke when I switched to Diet. Diet Pepsi is yuck. So
all diet drinks are yuck, Mary. So I don't know if y'all know this or not, but anything that has diet in the title doesn't help with the diet. So it don't matter why you drinking it. This shit is trash. It's terrible. Whether it's Diet Coke, Diet Sprite, Diet Ginger Ale, all of that diet shit is bullshit. And to me, my personal opinion, Coke and Pepsi taste exactly the same. One's red, one's blue. They taste the same. They both brown liquids. They do the same thing to your kidneys. Whatever.
Robert says landlines for AOL. So good one. And then Facebook user
the good old days.
If that Facebook user says if that shit wasn't on sale, we wasn't getting it. We got everything after it was old, and I do the opposite with mine. They get everything when it comes out. Love it. I'm assuming that's Roxy again.
That's Tamiko.
That's Tamiko, you were on the board last tonight. I love it. Yes, get it for him. I wish you'd have been around.
Are we not going to get to our other topic?
It is. We've done this an hour already. We already been up.
Oh, well, excuse the hell out of me. I'm sorry.
It's been an hour, over an hour. You talked a lot tonight,
the viewership has not declined. Let's keep going. You might have to cut this up into 2 episodes for the podcast.
Oh yeah, because you just got to talk about this other thing so badly, do you? All right, if people stay on, we will go ahead for a little bit longer, a little bit more here. What you got, Deon? Go.
Well, we all know that there is in this country people are on the ban train, whether it's banning trans shows, banning books. And so I was scrolling through Twitter as I do every day for interesting things. And one of the things I saw was a school board meeting where one of the ladies, I can't remember her name. What do you have her name there, Sid?
You talking about Krista Caceres, president of the Monroe County chapter of the NAACP.
No, not her. This other woman, I think, was a Moms of Liberty, I think, member. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken. I could be conflicting stories, but anyway, long story short, they're at this meeting, and she's talking about how the reason why they want to get rid of all these books, these teachings in schools, is because it's to make white feel bad. And the woman that you're talking about spoke up and said, well, do you know what the actual curriculum is? Can you point out where this would happen? And the woman who was saying she wants to get rid of this curriculum had no idea where in the curriculum the thoughts and ideas in her head were showing up in the classroom. This whole idea of we got to get rid of teaching white children about history, Black history, if you will make them feel bad. She just said, "Well, I don't want my children exposed to feeling bad because they're white." And to which, to this woman's credit, it was a beautiful flip. She goes, "Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but that's what's been happening to my kids for generations." And the idea that by banning certain books and certain stories in history, we prevent children from feeling good about who they are. That has been happening to Black kids since 1776 in this country when it comes to, learning about who you are as a person in this country. And so the idea that, well, if we cancel all this crap, white kids don't have to feel bad about who they are as people. It was very frustrating, but very, very liberating to watch this woman basically walk her down the path of realizing that what she's trying to do has been done to other people, and how she is culpable for that and not understanding it at the same time.
Yeah, again, every time we have these discussions, I try to make sure I watch the words that I use when we are having it, for the reason that I know there are going to be other people who we want to bring in. What I thought was great about that conversation was that while the folks who were there watching this happen wanted to, at moments, I felt like attack this white woman. There were times when they wanted to laugh at her. But I thought, like, make sure I don't mess up her name, I thought that Krista Caceres, the president of the Monroe County chapter NAACP, did a great job at keeping those people at bay and saying, look, this isn't an I got you moment. This is, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. And she did. She took her time. And it was almost agonizing because I knew where she wanted to go. And I think the woman who's running for board member knew where she wanted her to go too. And there were a lot of long pauses in her response to Miss or Mrs. Caceres, because I don't think she wanted to give it up. The truth. It was like watching someone in 48 hours in the box with the cops. And you trying not to give it up. I wasn't there. And finally, all right, let me just tell you how I thought about and planned this whole murder. And so the woman finally did give it up. And she said what was the truth. And what I loved about it was that I don't believe it to be just her truth. I believe that to be the truth of a lot of people who sit in that position or who are a part of her world. I don't want my kids to be made to feel bad for anything. Because again, we always talk about on the show, Deon, everyone is okay with everything as long as it does not affect me. If it's happening on that side of the street, yeah, that shit ain't cool, but it ain't happening to me. And so I thought it was a good conversation. I like the way that the president of that chapter, the NAACP, handled it, Krista. And it was a conversation that they obviously needed to have. I wish that I could have seen more of it to kind of see where it went from there. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall at that board member's home to see if she actually took it in and it made any change at all, even within moments after having that conversation. But I did appreciate it. But it's always the same thing. You and I, the other issue, I think, and why I thought that was an innocent back and forth, I think it's even more vile with some people, because you and I talk about this. There are groups of these people who really want to believe that they had no leg up in whatever success they may have achieved. That their skin color, their whatever, never played any role in it. The fact that they get pulled over and make it home without any issues, that never had anything to do with it. The fact that they can drive through a neighborhood, that never has anything to do with the fact that they're able to do that. You have those people who do not want to believe that exists, or at least they want to pretend like they don't know it exists. And if they have an option to not teach it and their children not to have to deal with it and be taught it and understand it, then that too can further keep that illusion of whatever life that they feel like they're living alive.
It's one of those things where when you're presented with the evidence of the thing that you don't believe, how you react to it, that cognitive dissonance that you have in your mind where, I've never seen it. I've never experienced it. So I know for a fact it doesn't exist. Yet then someone comes and shows you, hey, that thing you said that isn't real is very much real, and how you interact with the truth of the situation. And in that moment, you said a very key thing. She was keeping the wolves at bay, so to speak, because there were people in that meeting who wanted to jump down this white lady's throat. And let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she was innocent in the fact that she just doesn't want her children to experience what it feels like to feel less than in this country. If I were giving her the benefit of the doubt, for her to not be able to recognize that the flip side of that argument is that is what has been happening to minority groups in this country for a long, long time. And for her to not register that thought, I think was a really big key moment for me. I always have these conversations with people who don't agree that racism is real and that it doesn't, like that we have overcame something in this country to where it's not as bad as it used to be. And I always tell people it's not that the progress hasn't been made, because yes, you can't openly beat people with billy clubs and sick dogs on them, or spray them with the water hose. But that mindset and that mentality for the people who want to do that, that has never gone away. And so you look at the insurrection as a prime example, where they tell you, you got to take back your country, you got to fight for it. And you've got Nazis marching in the street, across the street from drag shows. I think it was in Ohio. Mm-hmm. So you have all these things where, as a country, we still, for whatever reason, have not addressed the core issue of race in America and how it plays a part in everyday life. I always tell people, being quote unquote racist isn't screaming the N-word or slurring Jews or whatever. It's a much more nuanced thing. And this was just a prime example of seeing it, how this woman didn't register in her mind that because Black history is not taught but in February, how Black kids could feel like they were less than because they don't see all the production that Black people have created in this country in their school system. And for her to be like, oh, now you're going to force feed my kids all this Black people were oppressed type stuff, and it's going to make them feel bad as white people, without having the conversation with her children about why this is the way it is, to me was just, it was a very, excuse me, it was a very teachable moment. And I'm happy that the Black woman that was asking the questions not only held the wolves at bay, but really challenged this woman on her thought process and to try to get her to explain her position, which she ultimately failed at, because in reality, she couldn't rectify why she felt the way she felt.
No, but she couldn't, and because the thoughts are not her thoughts. And so that's the other issue that we have when talking to people on that other side. Whatever they're giving you is just something that they're regurgitating that they heard, whether it be on Fox News, whether it be on whatever right-wing channel, whatever right-wing politician, whatever right-wing leadership that they're taking this information. So that's why often, just like talking to a child and asking a child a question and they give you an answer, well, where did you get that from? Or why is that? And anyone out there, Roxy or anyone, has had this conversation once or twice with their child, and the child gets that lost in the deer headlights look, and finally say, well, so-and-so said it. Well, now you have to explain why so-and-so wasn't right. And so that's why I love this, because that was the type of discussion that she had with her, because the initial question was just asking her blatantly, well, what is your thoughts on this? And her answer was not a real one. So then she quickly realized that this woman had no idea of not only what I'm asking her, and that she did not know how to answer the question. So she just broke it down to her, till she finally got an actual answer, and then explained her point of view. But again, the answer to your point did not make sense. And it did not make sense because it was not her own thought. And that is the issue. These people, you can take, if I wanted to be a low down dirty, I could probably be out here on the streets and have people marching and doing all kind of stuff, because 80% of people in this country are waiting for someone to lead them in whatever given direction. And that is all you need for the other 20%. I'll be kind and say 20%. I'll be less kind and say 10% who actually know what the hell they're doing to lead you in the wrong direction or whatever direction they want you to go in. What we are looking at in this country, we are looking at the Caucasian base shrinking in it. And it has been shrinking for at least 25 years. And the powers that be understand and know this. Within the next 10 to 15 years, the Caucasian group in this country would probably be at least second, maybe third, depending on what the Asians decide to do along with the Latinos. They understand this. So now all they need to do is make everyone who looks like them believe that anything that seems to be or looks like is going to be pro-black or pro anything that's not you is a danger to you and your very existence. Your very existence. The number one thing that they have done, which has done nothing but be, which I think is going to bite them in the ass down the road, is the abortion issue. You think by putting punishments on women who have abortions and telling them they can't have abortions legally, so on and so forth, you are going to keep blacks and Latinos who deliver more babies than you do from having them. When all you really are doing is upsetting white women in the middle of America, and you're increasing the chances that white women are going to fight to help black and brown people have kids. So all these things at the end of the day are about these larger issues. But when you get a woman like this board member, this woman running for the seat, and so many other people who cannot give you their own thought, just what is being regurgitated by the people who are paying to have those ideas put out, those think tanks, this is how we get into these large issues. And this is why it becomes even more upsetting when you try to have these conversations with these people, because all they can do is speak back to you in talking points or in memes, because they don't understand why they even believe what they believe.
I agree with you. It's unfortunate that when she faced reality, she just had nothing to say. When the truth hit her, she looked like the fool that all those wolves were trying to make her. But this woman who was leading the conversation on the microphone got her there with grace, which, if you really are trying to change people's minds and hearts, then that's the route that you have to go. Where there's a certain group of people who don't care about grace, who want you to just take the ass whooping that you earned from the stupidity that you spout. There are people out here who don't care about your growth, and there are times when I agree with them, and there are times where I'm like, you know what? I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and hope that you hear what you need to hear and get what you need to get. And so I don't think this board woman is going to change her mind. I really, really don't. But having that viral moment, if anything, hopefully it would give her pause to just reassess her position. Because in reality, the things that she was saying that she was afraid of have already happened to people of color in this country, and we are no worse aware.
The great things with viral moments are they're viral. So even if that woman was not genuinely affected by the presentation, by the assistance that was given to her by the African-American woman, the black woman, maybe somebody else who sees it will be. So that's the great thing about viral, or the terrible thing. But in this, for me anyway, the great thing about this being viral is viral. So this is a teaching lesson for other people outside of that room as well. For anyone who wants to sit back and really listen and take it in. And another reason why I enjoy this so much, and you and I kind of talked about it already, but the way she delivered the information. The one thing that they always want to say whenever we have these conversations, and if we get amped up in emotion, and let's be honest, black people are just emotional people. We're not angry. Bernie Mac had a great bit about it. Mm-hmm. We don't mean you any harm. We're not going to hurt you. We're just emotional people, and we are very, 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 very passionate most of the time. I don't care if we're talking about your favorite football team, or we're talking about I can't believe you eat Hellman's mayonnaise? Why would you use Miracle Whip? Whatever. We'll be passionate about whatever that is. But the African American woman, the black woman, was able to deliver her message to her so calmly, so smoothly. You can't say that I yelled at you. You can't say you misunderstood anything. I let you respond to my question 3 or 4 different times, and then I came back and I tried to explain the question to you again to give you another chance to answer the question. And then ultimately, once you did answer it, I calmly explained to you, no, ma'am, this is this is that, this is this, and this is what I need you to understand. So I can take this video and show it to anyone at any time. If you speak English, you should be able to understand now. And I've done this with people, and I challenge all of you to do the same thing, because I know we have some passionate master debaters on here. Whenever you get into these debates with these people, I challenge you to do the same thing, because at the end of the day, if I am speaking to you in a calm tone, in a voice that the police want to be spoken to at all times, and you still refuse, and you decide you're going to go the other way, then now I have all the information I need out of you. Either you're obtuse or you are too stupid to learn what I'm trying to teach you. Either way, I can not waste time with that. So again, love that it was viral. Somebody's somewhere will see this. And Deon, if you wouldn't mind sharing it in the group after we're done, if you don't mind,
I'll post it
so everyone else can see it, and maybe you can use it to show other people down the road. I don't know if you will, or maybe you won't, but it was such a beautiful, masterful thing to have this. And I take pride in this, that it was a black woman trying to teach this lesson in the manner that she was doing it. And you can't say anything about it. Much like when a couple of years ago, when the woman with the dog let the dog run loose in the park, in Central Park, tried to call the cops on the black guy, say, hey, you can't do that. Calm, smooth with it. He didn't get upset. He didn't get anything. He read the room. So you have nothing else to say when I'm delivering the message the way I'm delivering it. So now anything you do outside of where we're living on this level of communication makes you like a complete asshole. So either you're obtuse or you're too stupid to get it.
Yeah, it's like the perfect delivery system, and that goes to her leadership and why she is in the role that she was in. Is she was able to effectively communicate everything that she wanted to get across in a manner in which that there was no criticism that could be offered to the way that she delivered the message.
That's it.
People often say, well, I don't like the way you said it to me. It was how you said it. It was how you delivered it. It was like, damn all that. Did you get the message? Well, in this particular case, and I'll post it in the group after the show, she delivered the message unequivocally. So there was no, well, I didn't like how you spoke to me. She stopped everybody else from chiming in and barking and biting this woman's head off, and which is unfortunate that we have to do that. But sometimes you do have to compromise if you're really trying to reach a new level of communication with people. You know, some people just do not want to receive whatever message that you're trying to give them, and it doesn't matter how you deliver it. But in this particular case, it was delivered so succinctly and so deliberately and so perfectly that when the woman did try to offer up a response, she came to the realization that, damn, I don't have a leg to stand on. Mm-hmm. And so I am what I am, and I have to own that. And I think that was the real takeaway for me is that this woman didn't expose you to go viral. She exposed you to you so you could see exactly who you didn't think you were. And I think that's the only way to change someone's mind, is you have to show them who they really are as opposed to who they think they are. And when I have these types of conversations with people on a one-on-one basis, I never try to change their mind. I always try to get them to understand exactly who they think they are versus who they really are. And that is the beauty and the change that you can make.
And the great thing about it as well, this woman was running for a school board member seat. And from what I gather, it's not a school board. It's not a district of kids who look just like you. So you probably should have more of an open mind about different things that pertain to different kids of different races, different beliefs, so on and so on. So that was another great thing, reason I thought she highlighted it. Facebook user says, I just got here. And then another Facebook user, not sure if it's the same one, I do apologize.
That was
Said,
Robert Scott Brooke.
okay. So Robert, is he with the long one too? Deon, can you see the long post? Sorry, this is long. Feel free to skip for reading later.
No, that was Roxy, I do believe.
Okay, Roxy. So Roxy says, I was just at a training where we were, I assumed it was Roxy because it started with I was at a training, but where we were given a list of items where you can self-identify as either an agent, you represent this class, or a target outside of this class. It included things like ageism, disabilities, biological male, white, Christian, among others, where you acknowledge your position in the different areas and develop an understanding of the power that you have in your actions or reactions, and how being in either position can cause a real neurological response in your body. When you are an agent and you are challenged, you have a response. Same as being a target. I think it's important to challenge ourselves and others in a respectful way. The problem is that a lot of folks are unwilling to take that step back and self-reflect. And Roxy, I completely 100. I love that you shared that. Thank you, and I 100%. I'm sure Deon does agree because we're talking about this with that last sentence. That last sentence is always should be the next step, and that's what we're talking about with this Caucasian woman. Again, you guys will see in the video. Did she go home and have any self-reflection? But again, going back to it being viral, if she didn't, she didn't. But with it being viral, I refuse to believe that there won't be somebody who won't see it and they won't take some type of self-reflection. Jessica Lee Taylor says, I didn't see this conversation or even hear of the situation. I'm glad I don't live in a district that is banning books or even has meetings about that notion. For years, the education system was for the working class. The students were told to shut up and sit down. AF were for employers to decide. A-F. I don't know why I'm not catching that one.
A through F.
Okay, A through
rating
F.
Scale.
Were for employers to decide if that student would be a good worker. The curriculum was, if I read the whole sentence, I would have got it. A through F were for employers to decide if the student would be a good worker. The curriculum was teaching nothing, and I'm so happy that has changed. We're finally learning all of our history. And Jessica, I'm right there with you because I went to high school in a district, in a town in a district where they didn't teach any black history at all. And if it wasn't for the fact that I grew up originally in the city of Detroit, I would probably know a little. Well, I wouldn't say that. My mother didn't. My mother wouldn't have allowed that. Like she didn't even allow us to go to school on Dr. King's birthday, on the holiday. They still had school during Dr. King's birthday, during the holiday when I was growing up there. And then Jessica says, Sidney, the reason she spoke calmly was because she was most likely smarter than the other woman and had her facts. I don't want to say she was smarter, Jessica, but she definitely knew her facts about that woman and about what she was trying to explain to her, no doubt about it. And I think she spoke calmly to her because, one, she probably because she's in the position she's in, I would imagine, because she's the president of that chapter of the NAACP. And the other thing is, I think she really cared about getting this information out there. I think she really cared. I don't know if this woman's a teacher or professor or anything, but that's the way she spoke. I think she just really wanted to educate that woman and anyone else sitting at that table or in that room. I think that's what she thought was most important at that time.
I would agree with you there. A lot of pulling back your emotion to effectively communicate what you're trying to come across. You know, you spoke to it earlier. Black people, we're animated. You know, we do have a certain level of vigor when we discuss things amongst ourselves. It's just, I don't know the main reason for it. That's just how we are. And
like
so
every conversation is like playing a game of spades for some reason.
Yeah. And if you're not accustomed to that, it can come off as offensive or aggressive, or it can set people on the defense when in reality, it's like, I wasn't trying to upset you or make you feel uncomfortable. This is literally just how I'm so used to communicating. And the people that I spend most of the time communicating with understand that. So it's not something that I would explain to you. You are someone who has a ton of hope in this country, and I'm someone who doesn't have a ton of hope in this country. And so when I see things like this and the way that she was able to speak to this woman and everybody else in that room, and to do that balancing act by keeping all the other people who wanted to bite this lady's head off, part of me was like, she deserved to get her head bit off. But at the end of the day, if you are headless, how are you going to absorb any new information, right? Granted, the chances of this woman changing her mind are slim to none because she already came to the table with her mind made up about what it was that she felt her kids would go through. Even still, despite those opposite factors, the message for everybody else who was watching on the outside, you get to make up your mind and decide where you fall within that category. And so, again, I agree with you. The beauty of going viral is that it may not, she may not go home and self-reflect, but any person who is on the fence and who sees this, and when I posted in the group, for those of you who haven't seen it, you guys will be able to watch this woman dissect this woman's talking points, and you can literally see on this woman's face, the board member, you can see the moment on her face when she realizes, oh fuck, I really don't know what I'm talking about. And that in and of itself, whether she goes home and self-reflects or not, is a beautiful moment that even if it was just for that second in time, she got to hear her talking points run into a brick wall and smash before her eyes to where she was like, you know what, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should be quiet. And if we have more of that happening in this country, I think we could make some real progress.
I agree with that. I'm going to let you and Jessica and everyone else who's had comments to make on this have the last word on that. I'm glad we talked about it. Glad we made the time for it. Maybe we'll have 2 parts of the podcast. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But I'm glad we talked about it. Deon, what is your what the hell, sir, this week?
My what the hell is up with people wanting opportunities for things that they're not quite ready for. Be prepared for what you ask for. Okay, be prepared for what you ask for. That's if you ask somebody for something that you know you're not good and hell well prepared for. Be prepared for the consequences of that action. If you think you're ready for something and someone else tells you, I'm not quite sure you're ready for that, and they have more experience in that field than you, and you should take that advice. If you're going to listen to them and all the other things that they've tried to help you with, and then you say, hey, I think I'm ready to take that leap, and they go, oh, I don't think you're ready to take that leap, and then you jump and you fall flat on your face, you have to own that. So my what the hell is just don't ask for shit you're not ready for, especially if someone you look up to tells you, hey, you're not ready for this, but you say damn them and do it anyway, because it's never going to end well for you. And it doesn't make the person who wants to help you feel any good about being like, see, I fucking told you you wasn't ready. So just, if you ask for advice, take the advice. Okay? If you ask for the advice, take the advice. Don't ask for advice and then disregard that person, because it's disrespectful in the long run.
Good one. My what the hell is about marriage. And marriage is not for everyone. I'm not someone who thinks marriage is for everyone. I don't come from that. I don't preach that. A lot of old school folks will. A lot of your religious folks will preach that as well, because you shouldn't be together, shouldn't be having sex, whatever. Marriage just isn't for everybody. But if you are going to do it, then have this understanding. Once you are in it, there is very little about marriage that is a selling point unless you're married to the right person. Let me say that again for people out there who didn't hear me. There is very little about marriage that is a selling point unless you're married to the right person. You don't get to have sex as much as you want to. I got to share my money with you. I got to listen to your opinion about some things that maybe I don't want to listen to your opinion about. I got to listen to the same stories over and over and over again. I got to listen. I got to help you pack up and load up the car so we can take a vacation. Sometimes we go someplace I didn't even want to go. And this can be on both sides. This isn't just a man. This isn't just a woman. These are things from both points of view. So again, there is nothing about marriage that is a positive selling point unless you are married to the right person. Choose wisely. Don't decide I need to get married just because I need to get married, because it is a lonely place to live with someone you're not really wanting to live with. All right, that is my shit this week as well. Thank you guys for watching us. Sorry we are a day late on it. Wanted to spend some time with the person I'm married to yesterday. We spent the entire day together.
Happily married, by the way.
And happily married. And guess what? There was no sex had. party marriage. All right. It was still a good day. so, so it was still a good day. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate you for watching another Not As Debatable. We will be back next week. For all our folks out there listening on the podcast, please don't forget to share us with your friends. We do appreciate it. And you guys, if you have not already clicked that share button, before you leave us, please click that share button. It's not too much information. All right, we're family here. Family.
Roxy, that was Roxy. I just got an Amber Alert. That's why I went black. So that was very weird timing.
All right, we love you guys. Have a good week.
Have a good weekend, guys. Thank you so much. Peace.
How dare you, Roxy? Find bonus episodes of Not As Debatable, as well as my true crime podcast, Murderous Podcast, plus all other types of rewards on our Patreon at patreon.com/Sidney Smith Creative. You can join us today for as little as $1. Again, that's patreon.com/Sidney Smith Creative, CRE, the number 8, TIV. Have a great day.